Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk is in Kyiv to discuss bilateral relations and continued support for Ukraine with President Volodymyr Zelensky.
The far right in Europe is on the rise. Can they strike alliances?
How healthy are Europe's waterways? We join the sailing scientists on a quest to test pollution levels across the continent.
Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk arrived in Kyiv on Monday for talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The pair are set to discuss bilateral relations and the ongoing grain shipment and trucking dispute between their two countries. Tusk, who returned to power in Poland last month, vowed to continue to support Ukraine in its almost two-year war with Russia.
Będziemy inwestować w firmy w Polsce i w Ukrainie, które będą produkowały, działały na rzecz zwiększenia naszych możliwości obronnych i Ukrainy, i Polski, i całej Europy. I będzie to także bardzo opłacalne biznesowo przedsięwzięcie dla obu stron.
During his visit, Tusk attended a memorial ceremony for Ukraine's Unity Day, which marks the country's long struggle for independence from eastern and western neighbors. President Zelensky announced they would be receiving a new defensive package from Warsaw.
The far right is rising across Europe, and the next European Parliament could be the most right-wing ever. According to polls, if the nationalist parties joined in a single group, it could become the largest one in the chamber. The European Conservative and Reformists include Fratelli d'Italia, Spain's Vox, and Poland's Right and Justice Party, while France's Rassemblement National, Germany's Alternative für Deutschland, and Italy's Lega belong to Identity and Democracy. A merger seems unlikely.
Non c'è questa possibilità perché comunque sono due gruppi differenti che hanno specificità politiche diverse. Quello che ho l'onore di presiedere viene da una tradizione politica, quella conservatrice, che ha radici, che ha caratteristiche diverse da quelle di ID.
More likely, some parties will switch groups. Another important factor will be whether non-affiliated populist parties will join one group or the other. The most relevant is Viktor Orban's Fidesz, and some are already trying to seduce them.
Comunque il partito che esprime il governo di un paese dell'Unione Europea, quindi siamo ben disposti a lavorare con loro in quest'ottica, cioè capendo che uniti siamo più forti nel portare avanti le nostre istanze.
It seems clear that in the next term, far-right parties will have more power to influence policies in Brussels. But according to experts, this could also drive them to soften their stances.
They are Eurosceptic because they feel that they cannot influence the Brussels decision-making process. The moment they are part of the game, part of the decision-making process, they become, some of them, again, I'm not talking about all of them, but they become less Eurosceptic, and they want to be also seen as pro-European. In fact, many of them see themselves as pro-European, even though in Brussels they're not seen as such.
The far right will certainly be in the next European Parliament. It remains to be seen, though, how far they can go to forge alliances and hold their cards at the same time.
Dozens of family members of the hostages held in Gaza have stormed into a financial meeting of Israel's parliament, demanding the release of their relatives. The protest came after Israel's government announced the death of another hostage and appears far from achieving its goals of freeing more than 100 others and crushing Hamas.
אני אומר לכם שנעשה הכל על מנת שהילדים, האחים, הנשים, שיחזרו הביתה ויחזרו בשלום.
The families of the Israelis killed at the Nova Music Festival during Hamas's 7th of October attack are hoping to breathe new life into the site of the massacre by planting trees in the area. According to Israeli authorities, 364 people were killed there, with at least 40 hostages taken.
EU foreign affairs ministers are in Brussels to breathe life into the two-state solution. Ministers from the Middle East, including Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Egypt, are attending. Foreign affairs ministers from Palestine and Israel will also attend, although they've been separate meetings. EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell has devised a 10-point peace proposal, including a plan for a Palestinian state. This is despite the fact that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has outright rejected it.
They have to come here and they will discuss with us and we'll study which other solution they have in mind. Which are the other solutions they have in mind? To make all the Palestinians live? To kill of them? 25,000 already in Gaza. 70% are women and children. Certainly, the way you're trying to destroy Hamas is not the way they are doing, because they are seeding the hate for generations.
The proposal includes the Palestinian Authority administering a future Palestinian state, including Gaza and the West Bank. But speaking to Euronews, Palestinian Foreign Affairs Minister says he appreciates Josep Borrell's effort, but says Israel will only act if there are sanctions imposed against it.
With all respect to Josep Borrell, who is a good friend, I know him very well, and I believe that he has very kind of sincere thoughts, and he's doing his utmost in order really to see that justice will prevail and that such atrocities should come to an end. But if you cannot force Israel to comply, then Israel will never come on their own desire. And if you do not call the call and say the right words, sanctions, then nothing will happen.
Israel says it rejects the two-state solution and just wants to bring back hostages and dismantle Hamas.
Our brave soldiers are fighting in very hard conditions for those two aims: to bring back our hostages and restore security for the citizens of Israel.
The EU is divided on the issue of calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, but there is a consensus for a two-state solution. Shona Murray, Euronews, Brussels.
Elon Musk spoke at the annual conference of the European Jewish Association in Poland on Monday. Hours earlier, he visited the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp. The visit was apparently in response to calls from some Jewish religious leaders for the CEO of X to see with his own eyes the most symbolic site of the horrors of the Holocaust. Musk has faced criticism for subscribing to an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory and allowing hate messages on his social media platform.
Spain's famous El Prado Museum is working on becoming more inclusive. To do so, it is changing some of the language found in the short descriptions next to the paintings it has on display to more respectful terms. Gone are words such as dwarf or handicapped. However, if the terms are in the title attributed by the artist, those do not change, explained the museum's conservator.
Explicaba que representaba a la infanta Isabel Clara Eugenia con la enana Magdalena Ruiz. Ya estamos viendo que es una persona que tiene una estatura bajita, es bajita, no hace falta explicar que es una enana.
Pues más correcto políticamente hablando y pues que es un avance en términos de igualdad y pues que hay que valorar a todas las personas.
The changes come following the Spanish Parliament's decision last week to amend the constitution. MPs voted to replace the term handicap to persons with a disability, a terminology change long called for by Spain's disability community.
We're in Lyon about to board the Tara Ocean boat. This may seem like your average sailing boat, but it's in fact a floating science lab. Since April 2023, scientists on board have been tracking the health and pollution levels in water. But for a few weeks, the boat has docked here on the banks of the Rhône River. After France, the boat will travel through Spain and Italy before arriving in Athens in July. We spoke to the boat's captain, Martin Erto.
Le but de la mission Tara Europa Trek, en fait, c'est de mesurer l'impact anthropique, donc des êtres humains, sur le littoral, principalement parce que le littoral, en fait, c'est un lieu de biodiversité qui est énorme. Ça n'a jamais été fait pour l'instant, c'est quelque chose qui est fait sur une échelle de l'Europe complète, donc c'est 22 pays européens.
At the heart of the Tara lies a converted boat cabin where machinery is stocked.
Le rôle du bateau Océano, c'est de collecter de la donnée. On traque à peu près 4000 produits chimiques, donc pesticides, pharmaceutiques, qui ont été listés. Et on regarde en fait si on les retrouve déjà terre, mer, et quelles sont les interactions avec les micro-organismes.
The Rhône courses through Switzerland and France. It is one of Europe's largest rivers, but also one of its most polluted, as the Tara Foundation's head of public affairs explains.
C'est un fleuve un peu particulier avec un pool de production industrielle, chimique, plasturgique très très important. Un des buts visés, évidemment, c'est d'avoir une vision globale sur notre continent de ce qui se passe et de ce que sont les priorités. Alors ça peut être des priorités globales et ça peut être également des priorités bassin par versant ou bassin versant par bassin versant.
In 2023, the EU implemented regulation aimed at restoring at least 20% of the land and sea areas across Europe by 2030. But does pollution at a local level have a wider European impact?
Les molécules chimiques, elles circulent, elles circulent dans le monde. On va les retrouver dans l'eau du Rhône, on va les retrouver forcément par nature après, dans les mers, dans les océans, on va les retrouver également dans l'atmosphère. Donc il n'y a pas de frontière à la pollution, il faut bien être conscient que tout ce qui affecte la nature quelque part l'affecte globalement.